U.S. attorney. You don't have to make an appointment with a judge. You don't have to persuade the judge to sign the search warrant. You don't have to wait for the search warrant to be processed. You just click right onto your target's phone and bingo, you got everything you need about them. The Fourth Amendment be damned. Worry about the Fourth Amendment later. That's what they're taught.
You're right here. The Fourth Amendment contains some of the most precious language of the Constitution, as it was written intentionally to thwart the rapturous appetite of governments to snoop, which the British did to the colonists using general warrants. General warrants were not based on probable cause of crime and lacked all specificity. Rather, they were based on government needs, a totalitarian standard, because whatever the government wants, it will claim it needs. And they authorized the bearer to search wherever he wished and seize whatever he found. Whatever they found, he found. So we became them.
What we have become them. And the general warrants were issued by a secret court. Secret court in London, 1766. Secret court in Washington, D.C., 2023, FISA. General court in London, search where you want, seize what you find. General warrant out of FISA. One FISA search warrant authorized surveillance of all Verizon customers. At the time, that was 115 million of them. And the Constitution requires specifically describing the place to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. They have cut holes in the Constitution, and the people that we have elected to preserve the Constitution have subverted it, and we keep re-electing them.
Yep. Again, it goes back to the rallies. How many people turn out for peace? I mean, where are the people? To me, we're at the end if we don't change it. And again, you're doing what you can do. I do what I can do, and Ritter and McGregor. And by the way, you have Scott Ritter and McGregor on quite frequently on a show that everybody should go to, and that's Judging Freedom. And the guests that you have are phenomenal. So make sure you go to the YouTube and go to Judging Freedom.
You know, Gerald, I've been a constitutional scholar for 40 years. I never thought I would become the central focus of anti-war, anti-American aid to Ukraine. But the ex-intelligence community folks that I have on, Phil Geraldi, good friend of yours, the ex-military guys I have on, Colonel McGregor and Scott Ritter, have zoomed in popularity, as has the podcast, because they can't get on mainstream media. Unlike the Vietnam War, where the press challenged the government, now the press is pliant and doing the government's bidding. So it's independent places like your website, Trends Journal, your podcast, my podcast, where these guys come and liberty-loving people flock to us.
Tell us about what McGregor and Ritter are saying about what's going on in Ukraine.
The government is finally recognizing that it overestimated Ukraine militarily and politically and culturally, because it's so corrupt, and that it underestimated Putin. Last week, the Russians had 9,000 separate attacks on Ukraine. The Russians have built 3 lines of defenses at the outer perimeter of the battlefield. 3. Ukrainians haven't even approached, much less breached, the first of those 3. They're nowhere near it. So the so-called spring offensive's gone. The summer offensive is gone. All they're doing is sending drones at Moscow banks at 4 a.m. That's just a pinprick. The damage is cleaned up by the time the bank opens the next day. It's only a matter of time before Zelensky's living in his villa outside of Paris or his villa in Miami Beach.
Yeah. We said don't count on the counteroffensive several months ago when it began in June. And now look at the headlines of, this is from Monday's Wall Street Journal. You see that?
Ukraine's bid to retake Bakhmut falters. Yes, I'm surprised the Journal is
You ready?
publishing a headline, even though a lot of those guys are my friends. You know, they're in the same building as Fox. They have the same bosses ultimately as Fox. They've been mouthing the CIA and MI6 line for 16 months, but you deny reality. You have to confront the consequences of denying reality.
No, they don't confront the consequences. They just keep BSing. Here, this is from CNN. Same day. Western allies receive increasingly sobering, in quote, updates on Ukraine's counteroffensive. Quote, this is the most difficult time of the war. Now they're starting to admit it, but here is this is from Monday's toilet paper record. They call themselves the paper record, the New York Times, by an arrogant guy by the name of Roger Cohen. Desire behind Putin's war. You ready? Wider conflict with West.
That's the last thing Putin wants, is a wider conflict with the West. Putin does not want to attack the West. He does not want to subjugate Ukraine. He just wants Western missiles out of there, just like we would want Western Chinese missiles out of Mexico. It's the same principle.
Now, again, only one side, and then the very important, they never cover the Afghan war like they cover the Ukraine war. They never cover the Iraq wars like they cover the Ukraine war day after day. This guy is a low-life piece of scum. And I would call that to his face. I want to read to you some of his comments. I spent a month in Russia, a country almost as large as the United States and Canada combined, searching for clues, you ready, that might explain its nationalist lurch into an unprovoked war.
Unprovoked. I guess he forgot the coup in 2014. I guess he forgot the Minsk agreement in 2015.
Look at this. You ready? Page after page after page.
Yeah.
Look. How come? Hey, Slimeball, where the hell were you in Iraq? Oh, I know. You were an embedded reporter, in bed with the clowns. You're not a man. You're a prostitute. You are not a journalist. Here, I'm going to read you some more of his propaganda that I couldn't go on reading anymore. I first visited Moscow 4 decades ago when it was a city devoid of primary colors, eking out existence in the penury of communism. Gazing at Moscow today, it is possible to discern why Mr. Putin earns so much respect from his countrymen. He opened Russia, you ready? Only to slam it shut to the West. No. Hey, boy, he didn't shut it to the West. Oh, you forgot the guy Biden that you suck up to that puts sanctions? We're going to punish Putin. Oh, you forgot of all of NATO that puts sanctions on Russia. Oh, you forgot about all the companies, from Starbucks to McDonald's to everybody that pulled out of Russia? No. Putin didn't shut it down, liar. You're a liar. And then he goes on. The criminology of the Cold War has been replaced by the equally arduous pursuit of trying to penetrate the utter capacity of the Kremlin to read the mind of a new czar. Now Putin, Mr. Putin, now in that in the autumn of his rule. He goes on. I mean, it's just, he goes on.
I have to give you credit. You have a stronger stomach than I do. I couldn't sit down and read it either to myself or aloud as you're doing now. It's repellent. It's not news. It's the one-sided, warped opinion of MI6 and CIA coming out of the mouth of a New York Times reporter.
Putinism is a postmodern compilation of contradictions. It combines mawkish, this is his language, Soviet nostalgia with mafia capitalism, devotion to the Orthodox Church with the spread of broken families, ferocious attacks on a unipolar American world with revived Russian imperialist aggression, all held together by the ruthless suppression of dissent, voices, and recourse to violence when necessary. Oh, suppression of dissent? Anything that you don't believe that the government is shoving down your throat is misinformation.
And we will take it down from the public airwaves like we did to RFK Jr.
Yeah. This is disgusting. I couldn't read anymore. There are page after page after page of propaganda, and this is what the people swallow. I'll bet there's not one person that read this whole article.
I couldn't get through it. That's why I said you're a stronger man than I. You have a stronger stomach than I do.
And that's what the media has become. It's nothing more than a propaganda outlet. And that's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal.
Correct.
Because if you are among the people that love the New York Times, then of course you despise freedom. You're too stupid to think for yourself, and you hate the truth and trends, so you would never subscribe to our magazine. I mean, this is how low America's gone. And again, I'm so sad to see how few people are standing up and fighting. We have to unite, Judge, because if we don't, again, they're sending more weapons and more money to Ukraine to keep bloodying the killing fields. And the more drone strikes they get into Russia, the more times they hit Moscow, the harder Russia's going to push back at Ukraine.
You're right. And the Victoria Nuland and Tony Blinken and Lloyd Austin, and to the extent that he thinks the president, still believe they can use Ukraine as a battering ram to drive Putin from office.
Yep. That's
Putin is stronger and more embraced by the Russian people today than he was 2 years ago.
Well, thank you, Judge. As always, thank you for all that you do, the man that you are, the belief that you have in the God above, and how we have to change the world to bring life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness back in. By the way, the word happiness, the thing in our Declaration of Independence, you're not allowed to say that anymore. No happiness allowed.
Happiness. Thank you, Gerald. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, man.